Welcome back to the online education. Today we're going to walk through the helicopter breakdown slash tutorial. The helicopter is definitely a more advanced movement slash soft acrobatic. Fundamental to this is the cartwheel. So if you haven't learned or have a solid cartwheel yet, I would recommend to learn that first. You can also check that out in my other courses, in the beginner courses, where I explain about the cartwheel. So this is the helicopter, a bit slower, so you can actually see a bit more what's going on. In the first place, it looks very pretty much as an illusionary movement. That's also why I really like it, and a lot of people always are surprised when you do it and when they haven't seen it yet. So how to learn this? What's the first step? So if you take a height, like a little box or bench or something like this over here, you're going to stand straight in front of it and you imagine that there is a little ball underneath over here. And you imagine that you can kick that ball with maybe the leg where you also would kick a soccer ball with. So if you go on the bench into a handstand and at the highest point of the handstand you try to kick like this. Practice this many times until you are feeling more comfortable with it and get more used to the movement. Then another thing which is very important is the main arm within soft acrobatics, which I'm also explaining in my fundamental courses. But to break it down, over here, if you have the bench, you place one arm on the bench, on the height, and then you turn your upper body as much as you can upwards. From that position, you try to push your upper body up. And one leg over here is from the ground and one stays on the ground. So if you have your right hand on the box, your right leg is in the air. And then you try to push yourself. Also with this one functional drill, do it many times until your body gets used to it and you feel more confident in there, more muscle memory. Another fundamental mobility exercise, I would say, is the diagonal stretch. It's coming back in almost any soft acrobatics. It is useful in any soft acrobatics. I would say if you get more mobile in this position. So you have one leg straight in front of you. Your front feet is turned out 45 degrees, and with in this case, if your right leg is in the front, you're reaching with your right arm to your left ankle and you make repetitions. I would say 20 times left, 20 times right. To start with, a progression would be to place your frontal foot on a height like this. Every time you put up more height in there on your front feet, you will make it harder for yourself and also get more mobile in there. Something what is also important within this exercise is that you try to really extend your frontal leg as much as possible. The leg behind you can bow a bit. And yeah, try really to reach as far as you can. Not everybody can do it directly, but try to touch for your ankle and also try to look backwards as much as possible. Okay, so next up, to create more momentum within the helicopter. And yeah, we're going to try to make a cartwheel on a height as well. So we have the box in this case on my left side, and then you have the setup of a cartwheel. You try to make the cartwheel on the box. Also try to do this for 20 times a day, probably, to get used to it. And really try to, like here, find your highest point within the cartwheel. Really try to be conscious, aware about that. Yeah. So over here, what I'm actually doing is when we find this highest point, you're going to implement that kick that we just have been practicing on a little height on the highest point. So here the cartwheel, highest point, kick. And it's actually already the helicopter, right? So if you have been more used to that, have been practicing this like regularly, um, yeah, also 20 times a day, 3 days a week at least, I would say, you can start building off the height. So this is the half of the height that we have been doing. We're doing exact the same thing. Here from another angle, you can see it a little bit better. Cartwheel setup, highest point, kick. Really try to kick to the moon, by the way, if you're making or performing the helicopter. Also, if you have been practices this for some time, getting more used to it, you can start doing the same motion on flat grounds. At least trying it. And yeah, actually, I'm only thinking about the kicking leg. The left leg, which is landing, will come there by itself if you're only focusing on that. And also, what is very important actually to remember to create more flow out of it, because most people, when they first learn the helicopter, is the moment of landing, you have to think about the main arm exercise that you just have been doing. The moment of landing, directly you have to push yourself, your upper body, from the ground so you can step flowy and softly out of it. That is very important. Also, when I say kicking to the moon, when you focus on this leg kicking to the moon, always try to keep your leg in the air as long as possible, if not all the time. So when you land, keep your leg up as high as possible. Yes, this is also very important to yeah, not getting stumped on the ground basically and lose your flow. And this also makes yeah, the movement beautiful at the end, I would say. So pay attention to that. Keep your leg up all the time. Okay, so far this breakdown slash tutorial, what I want to say is these are all functional build up drills. So figure out for yourself where you are in the progressive ladder. If you cannot perform it well, stick to there, implement it into your training routine. Um, Drill it for at least 20 repetitions, depending a little bit on the exercise. But if possible, both sides, 20 repetitions, and at least 3 days a week to really start seeing progressions in weeks. In months, of course, you're going to see bigger progressions, but of course, it takes time. Okay, thank you so much for watching today. Um, you can always reach out to me for questions. Check out my social media, other tutorials, breakdowns. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always very appreciated. And yes, see you at the next class.